I've been asked to, I suppose, stand up and tell you a little bit about Passle and where we came from very quickly, and I suppose a little bit about what we're doing and how we're trying to help our clients at the moment. So I'm going to try and keep it really, really short so you can go into the break and do more of that networking. So I'll put my hands up and say I didn't do a law degree. I'm not a lawyer. I've never worked at a law firm in my life, so I'll tell you a bit about what I did do instead of that. But over the last 12 years, we have worked with lots of law firms, so I've been in a privileged position to work with some amazing chief marketing officers, with managing partners, with BD, marketing and communications teams. So hopefully I've picked up a little bit on the way about how you guys work and the challenges you face every single day in your offices. I always say it's great to have you all here. The content's great, but when it comes down to it, we all know this is just a giant therapy session. So you should probably all be paying us about $2,000 an hour each, and we'd be making a lot more money. So I'm from Belfast, and I really quickly and how I got to Passle in the first place. I grew up in the 80s and 90s in Belfast, and when you were 18, living in that era in Belfast, you got out of there as quickly as possible when you were 18. So I went to uni in Edinburgh and did a business and marketing degree. And after that, I landed a job in the IBM Sales and Marketing Academy. And I was selling ThinkPads and IBM X servers to the public sector. And to reiterate what Carl Kennedy was saying in the session before about that regulatory compliance thing, that conference being so boring. This was so boring, and I had to do it every single day. So I eventually left there. I say left, some people would say ushered out the door. And I managed to get a job. I realized I needed to do something I was a bit more passionate about, and I managed to land a job in the marketing team at Diageo. And this was a whole step up from ThinkPads and X servers. And I got to work with some of the best brands in the world, Gordon's and Smirnoff and Johnny Walker. And as an Irishman, there's no more iconic brand in the world than Guinness. So I was in my early to mid-20s, and they were paying me, to work out how to get these lads to drink more shots of Jose Cuervo and to get these girls drinking more Guinness and wearing these stupid hats on St. Patrick's Day. So it was brilliant. We had an absolute ball of a time, but it was probably one of the best marketing training you could go through anywhere in the world. So we learned so much about marketing. We had amazing brands behind us, but even still, it was all about the people. So just like in your jobs today with your team, it's all about having good people who can go and deliver for you. So we had a ball doing that. And then a few years later, I met Tom and Adam Elgar, who are the founders, the co-founders of Passle. They were working actually with a company called the Server-Side Group at the time. You won't have heard of the Server-Side Group, but what Tom and Adam had done, they come up with this idea to put pictures on bank cards so you could customize your cards. So it was pretty unique and pretty different, but we went around selling this to the world's biggest retail banks. So we sold it to Barclays, to Capital One, to Wells Fargo, to Chase. And it was really cool. And actually, when the guys built it, they thought it was going to be brilliant for small business logos. So you could put small businesses could get their logos on their kind of business cards. But actually, it was all just dogs and cats and babies. But fortunately for us, there's loads and loads of dogs and cats and babies about. So we started selling millions of cards, and it was really cool. And again, we had a real ball doing this. And when we were there, I was like, we know more than anyone else in the world about this incredibly niche thing that we specialize in, which is where customization crossed with payment cards. Like we knew more than anyone else in the world. In fact, we were probably the only people in the world who knew anything about it. And we decided, let's do a blog. And let's write thought leadership, and we'll get all our experts to write these insights, and then we'll send it to the people in the world who can buy our product. And there were actually only about 200 people in the whole of the world who could buy from server side. So it was really, we knew who they were, we had their emails, we were going to do a newsletter and send this content. So Tom and I chased everyone around the office, and in January, everyone wrote this beautiful content, brilliant insights. We did a newsletter, we sent it to all these people who could buy our products, and then February came about, and nobody ever did it ever again. because they were too busy with their clients. They were too busy in the client work. They just didn't have time to sit down for 4 hours and think about what they were going to write and write it. So eventually, we got Tom's mate, Tom Elgar's mate, Dominic. He was a bit of a laugh, but he was an ex-FT journalist, and he was a brilliant writer. So he started writing the content for us, and it was beautifully written, but he had absolutely no idea about where customization crossed with payment cards, so the content was kind of crap. It was totally irrelevant and no good. So eventually, we just had to take it down altogether, this blog from the website. So what we did instead, because we knew who the 200 people were, we started finding pictures of them online, and then we would blow their picture up and put it on a giant credit card, okay? So I think I've got a picture. I think for Tom, for his birthday, we gave him that for his birthday. I don't think he was too happy about that. So what we did was we would find the picture of the CEO of the retail bank. We would put their logo at the top, whether it was Barclays or whatever. We put the Visa or MasterCard logo, make it look like a giant card, like those big checks you hand out in a charity event. So it was a bit like that. And on the back of it, it looked like a card as well, but we had all the return and investment benefits from it then as well. So if you did this customization program, how loyalty went up, how your customized put that card front of the wallet, and how you ultimately made more money from that. And it was really cool. And we did this to 200 CEOs around the world. And we got them all back. We got the printer to print them all. They were really solid. We put picture hooks in the back so they could hang them up in their office. And we started hand wrapping them in brown paper. We wrote their name and address, hand wrote every single name, wrapped it with a little bit of spring on. I brought my Paco Rabanne aftershave in, and we sprayed a wee bit of that on it as well. And we posted this to these 200 CEOs, and we got so many meetings from it. I remember one guy wrote, it would be churlish of me not to take the meeting after receiving this. So we got loads and loads of emails, and we sold loads and loads more card programs. So we had this really interesting hyper-personalization of marketing, this kind of one-to-one, where we were able to get people taking the meeting and buying our product. So eventually, Tom and I sold server-side group back in 2012 to a giant French company called Gemalto. And at that point, we thought, well, are there other companies who struggle to get the busy experts at the firm writing these regular insights and thought leadership? And it turns out that every firm we talked to had that problem, but no more so than in professional services with law and consultancy firms. So we thought about how can we start to fix that? And that's what we've done over the last kind of 12 years. We built this thought leadership platform that makes it dead easy for busy experts to write insights very quickly. I don't need to talk about that because the lads on stage just before seemed like they were paid to talk about that and did a lot more justice to our platform than I could ever do. However, in the last few years, we've heard, or in the last year and a half probably, a lot about AI. And the CMOs we work with, a lot of the time, they're being asked by the senior leadership at their firm, how do we, you CMOs, go and find out how we can use AI better at our firm? And I was actually at a round table the other day in London with CMOs, and they were saying they kind of everything gets chucked at the CMO. Whether it's to do with marketing or BD or not. So it's like ESG, chuck it at the CMO. AI, just chuck it, give that to the CMO. What else? I don't know, diversity and inclusion, give it to the CMO. And it's like you guys aren't busy enough or something. I'm joking. So this is what we were told. And in turn, our clients were coming to us saying, how can we better use AI in our thought leadership program, in our marketing and communications? And at Passle, the people we don't often talk about that much, we're really lucky to be headquartered in Oxford in the UK, the city of dreaming spires. And what it means when you're based in Oxford in the UK, you have access to some of the finest minds in the UK and some of the finest minds from across the world. And we're lucky to have an unbelievable software engineering firm who sit behind the scenes and do all of the grunt work and come up with the ideas and come up with the code to make these things happen. The first thing we started looking at was, could we use AI to write the insights, and people use ChatGPT to do that. So we kind of set up a beta version of that. And I think the reception was a bit lukewarm because almost like our attorneys' heads or our consultants' heads, it's almost the last bastion of authenticity. And in these communications, authenticity, when listening to Jeff earlier on, for example, that authenticity is so important. we used to always use this quote in our slides by Rupert Younger, the director, Oxford University Centre for Corporate Reputation, said, authenticity is at the heart of modern communications. So we really didn't want to lose that. But in lots of the meetings we were in, we heard a lot of this sentiment a lot from our clients. You know, if our attorneys knew what their colleagues were able to deliver, our clients would buy it. We were in with one of the big global firms 3 or 4 months ago, and their head of BD said, that's exactly true for us. If X firm knew what X firm could do, we'd be a $6 billion business instead of a $3 billion business. And they said their whole strategy was not just to bring in new clients, obviously great to have a new client, but we've got these $30 million clients. How do we build that to be a $60 million client? Maybe for a smaller firm, maybe it's getting something from 2 million to 4 million or 5 million to 10 million. But this was like a really key thing. And we heard this in so many meetings we were at. And this is another thing we heard a lot as well, this, pardon the interruption, this PIT email, which some of you will have heard as well. So a partner will message the whole entire firm and say, does anyone know a law firm that there's this area of law in this jurisdiction? And the CMO's reading this going, Jesus H, we do that. And we've been telling you and promoting it for the last 2 years. So a really frustrating thing for people to see. And another client the other day told Eugene and I that actually cross-selling was getting worse in their firm because people were working more and more at home. So they didn't have that interaction, those informal connections, those water cooler moments were disappearing as well. So cross-selling was even deteriorating. I had lunch with Sadie Barron a month or 2 ago, and she gave us this quote. Sadie, many of you will know, former CMO at Reed Smith. And Sadie said, actually, cross-selling is probably the cheapest, fastest, and easiest way to grow revenue. So we were like, if it's so important, what's stopping it? So why aren't people doing more of it? And this is what we heard when we interviewed our clients. One was awareness. So this lack of awareness that people are so focused, they're in their lanes every single day, they just don't have time to look up and see what else is going on. So that awareness of what their colleagues and their clients can do. And it can be really difficult because if you're a big firm, you might have people in Dallas and New York, maybe Singapore, maybe London, whatever it might be. So offices all around the country or offices all around the world. So it's impossible for everyone to know each other and to know what they each do then as well. The second then was trust. So if I'm going to bring this person in to my most important client that I earn the bulk of my revenue from, I've got to really be able to trust them that they're not going to mess it up and they're not going to embarrass me in front of my client. So those were those 2 key things we heard constantly, awareness and trust then as well. So we also did a bit of research. So what do your clients want? So we did a number of surveys with managing partners and with general counsels. And what was amazing, said that GCs spend more than 8 hours per week consuming content. 77% take more than 8, and you can see some of them are 13 to 16 hours, 16 hours a week up there. So that's a day or 2 of working time, maybe not for an attorney, admittedly, or a CMO, but for us mere mortals, that's a full day's work, 8 hours. So they're doing that, but they also said only 1 in 12 of them felt that their law firms were sending them enough content and keeping them informed of what's going on, what are the issues that are facing them, and what they need to know then as well. And we also did this managing partner survey last year, and 80% of the managing partners we interviewed felt that the market really didn't know about their firm's full capabilities. So we also heard with our clients is that when they did create content and insights and thought leadership, what they would do with it was they'd basically just send it to everyone. So a lot of the time they do this thought leadership. I was in a meeting with EY the other week with their global head of content. Said they'll create this big thought leadership piece, big report, takes them weeks and weeks and loads of money to create, and they just send it to everyone, and then nobody opens it because they're thinking it's probably not relevant to them. So what we decided to do is, how can we fix this awareness and trust? And I'll give you a look at what the team in Oxford came up with. And lots of you will actually have seen this, so I'll skip through it really quickly. So this is where AI could help. So what we did, on everyone's website, you have all your content feeding in as you publish it, and you've got the profiles of all your attorneys there as well. So what we did is that every time you publish a piece of content, CrossPitch uses artificial intelligence to analyze that article, and then it analyzes the profiles of every attorney at your firm and start working out who is this actually relevant to, who will actually want to read that article. So instead of sending it to everyone, we're just going to send this to Alice and to Patrick and Penny, but we don't need to send it to Tracy and Schmelz and Molly because it's not as relevant to them. And then in the back end, you can actually set a score. So you can say, I want this to be, has to be 90% relevant to go to someone. In this case, it's set at 70% in this fictional firm. So it's going to go to 125 out of the 656 people. If that's too many, you say, I actually only want it to go to 90% relevancy, and that number will come down. If you want, that can then go automatically to those attorneys. Some of our clients want that little bit of control, so you can actually scroll down and go, actually, I don't want it to go to Rebecca, and I also want it to go to David Matthews then as well. And then what happens when you send that out? Instead of getting an email about everything that you've created, they just get this one email from that insight that's relevant to them. Down at the bottom, we use AI to say why they've received this. So why are they actually getting this piece of content? And up here, probably the most important bit at the top, is this summary of the post written by Oscar Welton. And it says in kind of 80 words, this is what it's about, here's the key point, and it was written by the guy Oscar. And that's what we want to do. We want people to open it, read that little snippet, know who it was written by, and start to educate people from all around the firm then. If they want, they can do a few things with that as well. They could click through and read the whole article if they're interested in that. They can click and connect with Oscar. They can really push it very easy to LinkedIn. But what our clients are saying they want them to do with that information is tell the client about it. So there's a few ways you can do that. One, we have this little tool where you can share via email. So again, we use AI, and you can send it directly to that key contact, in this case at Boeing, tell them what it's about, say, good to think of you, or I was thinking about you the other day, I thought this post might be relevant. Or maybe when they're in the next meeting, they can bring it up in the next meeting and say, oh, it's interesting. My colleague Oscar Welton was talking about this thing the other day, and I thought you'd be interested around that. And maybe they're in the office. Maybe Alice is out in the golf course, so that's where she does. So wherever your attorneys are getting this information to their clients, how do we get that other information from around the firm into their heads so they can then deliver that to their clients? Then the software team, we had some clients saying, but we don't have everything in their public profile. These can be quite tight public profiles sometimes, so we don't have everything they're interested in. So the team in Oxford added this little bit, not quite right, enhance your CrossPitch profile, and it just brings up a little white box. You can type in other things that you're interested in, what you want to hear about. It doesn't go in your public profile, but it means you'll get other content that you're interested in delivered directly to your mailbox. And what we've seen with our early adopter clients is that this email is going down from 78,000, not literally, down to 1. So just getting that right insight to the right person at the right time so they can deliver that information to their client at the right time then as well. So that's what it was all about. And we've seen open rates more than double since we've launched that with our early clients. The industry standard, if you look online, says it's about 18% open rate. The CMOs I've talked to said they're nowhere near 18% open rate. EY told me they're about 2 or 3% open rate. With CrossPitch AI and our clients, we're now averaging at 38% open rate. And we think this is going to go up because when you get emails that are genuinely relevant and useful to you, you tend to open them every single week or every time you get them. So that was really cool. This is what's stopping cross-selling: awareness and trust. And then Eugene and I, a couple of months ago, were up in Chicago, and we met the CMO, and she said, that's really cool, but I actually thought this was going to be about searching for the right attorneys. She said, our search is absolutely hopeless on our website and on our internet. I thought you were going to be able to surface the best lawyers. So we get, our clients will challenge us, give us a challenge, and we need to find the right attorney, maybe that day, that hour, that minute, that we can introduce to our client then. And she was almost saying it was like there's two sides of this cross-selling coin. So one is that sending the right insights to the right people at the right time, but the other was how do we search and find the right clients, the right lawyers to bring to our clients. And she likened it to baseball cards. So she said, I'd love to be able to type in what we need a lawyer's expertise in and what jurisdiction, and it would bring up all these kind of baseball cards of the best attorneys that match those needs. And then she could pick the best 2 or 3 attorneys and then bring that to that client to help them with their challenges and better cross-sell across the firm. And we've spoken to loads of our clients about their search more recently. We spoke to one of our Magic Circle firms. Will and I were in London a few weeks ago, and we brought up the search function on their website, and they basically told us to turn it off immediately, and they started hiding their eyes behind their hand. Another big US firm we met recently, they said they don't even use their search function anymore. They just use Google because it works better than their own intranet or website. And we actually went through hundreds of the biggest law firms in the world and consultancies, and with the majority of them, they failed to find the right results, the thing that you were really looking for. Again, this pardon the interruption email, more people sending those out then as well. But what we did with this is, what do we always do when we have a challenge from our clients? We head back to Oxford. And they came up with this, they brought in a combination of AI and vector search, and I'm really not going to try and explain this in too much detail because that's not me, but with the vector search part just means it attributes a value to every single word. So it's not all based on keywords, so if you type in Silicon Valley, it'll bring up Silicon Valley, but it might also bring up Palo Alto or San Francisco. And if you type in life sciences, it might also bring up pharmaceuticals, et cetera, as well. Actually, apparently it goes a lot further than that. According to Panos, it uses a term, I think, called reciprocal rank fusion. Anyone know what that is? Well, it's easy. I'll show you the formula Panos sent for that. That's it there. Okay, so that's reciprocal rank fusion. So I was about to put all this in our marketing activity, our marketing materials, and Tom pulled me aside and he goes, he said, I'm not sure reciprocal rank fusion adds much other than having a passing resemblance to a flux capacitor. So with this new search, it's just making it much easier and intuitive by using natural language to find the things that you need. You know, and you can base it on a combination of name, location, expertise, practice sector, to find the most suitable attorneys at your firm to bring to your clients. So to have a wee look at that, thank you, Catherine's in for letting us do a live example of Baker Bot. So we have a little demo of this. This actually works live. So you say, I need an energy regulations lawyer in Houston, please. And it brings up all the profiles. So Panos had set it so it brings up all the profiles of the most relevant people across the firm. A couple of weeks ago, Panos pulled us on. He goes, actually, I've built this other thing. He said, not just will I bring in the profiles, but what we're going to do is we're going to have a summary of why that profile's been brought up. So in this case, which is quite amazing, James Barkley, you loving that? Our very own, a different James Barkley. This is total coincidence. It says, James's extensive experience in energy regulations within Houston makes him highly relevant to your search. His practice includes regulatory counseling for electric utilities and pipelines representing clients before key agencies like the Texas Public Utility Commission and the Texas Railroad Commission, which are crucial for navigating energy regulations in the region. So surfacing the right person. We talked earlier about this problem of trust. I don't know James, Catherine, you maybe do, but he sounds like a pretty good guy to bring into this conversation, I would say. They also made it flexible in the weighting because all law firms like a little bit of flexibility. So if you're one of those firms who only wants partners surfacing, you can weight it so you only have partners, or if you want partners ahead of associates, you can do that. Maybe you're very sector focused, you can have sector being weighted above practice, etc. as well. So that was all the importance about that flexible with weighting then as well. They even constructed it so if you're part of a network, and I know many of you are, you might be part of Lex Mundi or Meritas or Gala or NextLaw, International Lawyers Network, World Law Group, etc. If you are, you can connect a number of these firms together and you can search across the network. So maybe your firm doesn't have that right lawyer to deliver. You can search your network of firms that you work with and find the right lawyer in the same way at those firms as well. But really, really importantly, when we spoke to the team in Oxford, we said we need zero integration, because as soon as we have tech and IT projects with a CMO, we're 3 years down the line before anything's happening. So we have to make this as easy as possible to do. Tom sent me this article from The Economist the other day, from the May 21st, and he said, the share of companies abandoning most of their generative AI pilot projects has risen to 42%, up from 17% last year. And the reason for that is because people buy this white box. You buy the idea, and then you have to spend 2 years filling it with data, filling it with the information, and it's hard to do because you need resource, you need your team who are overstretched already to do it, and then it just never happens. So people are abandoning these projects. And it's what The Economist called the AI trough of disillusionment. And so there's all this excitement, and then you actually have to put it in place, and the whole thing just falls apart. So what we did was we said to the guys, there's no need for the Passle Thought Leadership, so you can launch this without the Passle Thought Leadership program. And it's so easy to get going. You can do it immediately almost. So much so that Panos and Yuchen created a little bit of code to take the public profile of every single lawyer over the last couple of weeks, of every firm being represented in the room today, and index them. And I'm willing to bet you one of those pints of Guinness I showed you earlier, that if your search works better than Yuchen and Panos and Chris Venus' search, I'll buy you a pint of Guinness downstairs later on. So if you'd like to see, we actually have a wee demo area out there. We have every single one of the firms in this room indexed out there. You can go and have a little try, see if it works for your firm. And if it does, as I said, total zero integration to get it going. So that's what we've been working on after being challenged by our clients. How do we fix these two issues? Building awareness across the firm and building a trust across our people. And with that first one, that idea of sending this hyper-personalization, because you can't probably send a big credit card to your potential clients. That would be a bit weird. But that hyper-personalization, sending the right insights to the right people at your firm so they can deliver it to your clients. And that search, the ability to find the most suitable colleague to bring and help with your clients' challenges. So listen, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. I was sure after that last session everyone's going to pile out of the room, so thank you for staying with me. We love having you guys here, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you so much.